This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Catherine Fitz, Davis, California. Good Things to Eat as Suggested by Rufus, by Rufus Estes. Section 18. Preserves, Pickles, and Relish. Cherry pickles. Stem, but do not pit, large ripe cherries. Put into a jar and cover with a syrup made from 2 cups of sugar, 2 cups of vinegar, and a rounding teaspoon each of ground cloves and cinnamon cooked together for 5 minutes. Let stand 2 days, pour off the vinegar, reheat, and pour over the cherries, then seal. Chili sauce. Peel and slice 6 large ripe tomatoes. Add 4 onions chopped fine, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 1/4 cup of salt, 4 cups of vinegar, and 2 teaspoons each of ginger and cloves, and 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Cook together 1 hour and seal in small glass jars. Cold catsup. Cut 4 quarts of tomatoes fine. Add 1 cup of chopped onion, 1 cup of nasturtium seeds that have been cut fine, 1 cup of freshly grated horseradish, 3 large stalks of celery chopped, 1 cup of whole mustard seeds, 1/2 cup of salt, 1 tablespoonful each of black pepper, cloves, and cinnamon, a tablespoon of mace, 1/2 cup of sugar, and 4 quarts of vinegar. Mix all well together and put in jars or bottles. It needs no cooking, but must stand several weeks to ripen. Creole sauce. Scald and peel 24 tomatoes. Remove the seeds from green peppers and cut the pulp and 4 onions fine. Shred 1 ounce dried ginger. Mix and add 4 tablespoons each of sugar and salt, 3 cups of vinegar, and 1/2 pound seedless raisins. Boil slowly 3 hours, then put away in wide-mouthed bottles. Gingered green tomatoes. To 1 peck small green tomatoes, allow 8 onions. Slice all together and sprinkle with 1 cupful of salt. Let them stand 24 hours, then drain and cover with fresh water. Make a strong ginger tea, allowing 1 quart of boiling water to a pound of bruised ginger root. Let it simmer gently for 20 minutes until the strength of the ginger is extracted. Scald the chopped tomatoes in this. Drain. Mix together 1 ounce ground ginger, 2 tablespoonfuls black pepper, 2 teaspoonfuls ground cloves, 1/4 pound white mustard seed, 1/2 cupful ground mustard, 1 ounce allspice, 3 ounces celery seed, and 3 pounds brown sugar. Now put the sliced onions and tomatoes in a kettle with sugar and spices in alternate layers, and pour over them enough white wine vinegar to cover well. Cook the pickle until tender, then pack in jars and seal. Green tomato mince. To 2 quarts chopped apples, greenings are best, allow 2 quarts chopped green tomatoes, 1 pound each seeded raisins and cleaned currants, 1/2 nutmeg, 1 teaspoonful of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoonful ground cloves, 6 cups granulated sugar, and 1.5 cups of cider vinegar. Boil slowly 3 or 4 hours and can. Piccalilli. Allow to 1 gallon sliced green tomatoes, 1 pint grated horseradish, 11 ounces brown sugar, 2 tablespoons each of fine salt and ground mustard. Put the tomatoes in a large stone crock, sprinkle the salt over them, and let stand overnight with a slight press on top. In the morning, add to the tomatoes and let stand several weeks until it has formed its own vinegar. Always keep the pickle under the liquor and have it in a cool place. Pepper relish. Chop fine a small head of white cabbage, 6 large green peppers, and a nice bunch of celery. Put in a large bowl and sprinkle with 1/2 cup of salt. Mix well, cover and let stand overnight. Next morning drain and mix in 2 tablespoons of mustard seed, and pack in a stone jar. Put in a porcelain kettle 3 pints of vinegar, 2 tablespoons sugar, 1 tablespoon each of whole cloves, allspice, and whole pepper, a clove of garlic, and 1 onion minced. Simmer gently 20 minutes, strain and pour boiling hot over the vegetables. When cold, cover and keep in a cool place. Tomato catsup. This catsup has a good relish on account of the onion in it. Wash ripe tomatoes, cut them in slices, and cook slowly for 1 hour. Press through a sieve to take out the seeds and skin. To 1 quart of this pulp and juice add 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, 1 of black pepper, and 1 of mustard, 1 teaspoon of cayenne, 1/2 cup of salt, and 2 onions chopped fine. Simmer 2 1/2 hours, then add 2 cups of vinegar. Cook an hour longer. Put in bottles and seal. Tomato chutney. Cut up and peel 12 large tomatoes, and to them add 6 onions chopped fine, 1 cup of vinegar, 1 cup of sugar, a handful of finely chopped raisins, salt to taste, a 1/2 teaspoonful of cayenne, and a 1/2 teaspoon of white pepper. Boil 1 1/2 hours, and bottle or put in stone jars. Vegetable relish. Use 2 quarts each of cooked and finely chopped beets and cabbage. Add 4 cups sugar, 2 tablespoons salt, 1 tablespoon black pepper, a 1/2 tablespoon cayenne, a cup of grated horseradish, and enough cold vinegar to cover. Bottle in glass jars and keep in a cool place. Apple and grape jelly. Pull the grapes off the stems of 6 large bunches. Put them in a preserving kettle. Just cover with water. Pare and slice 6 large fall pippin apples. Put them with the grapes. When boiled soft, strain through a flannel bag. To a pint of juice, allow 3/4 pound of sugar. Boil the juice 15 minutes. Skim and add the sugar, which has been heated. Boil 10 or 15 minutes. This will fill 3 jelly glasses. Black currant jelly. This is one of the best old-fashioned remedies for sore throats, while a teaspoonful of it dissolved into a tumbler of cold water affords a refreshing fever drink or family beverage on a hot day. Stem large ripe black currants, and after washing, put into the preserving kettle, allowing a cupful of water to each quart of fruit. This is necessary because the black currant is drier than the red or white. Mash with a wooden spoon or pestle, then cover and cook until the currants have reached the boiling point and are soft. Turn into a jelly bag and drain without squeezing. To each pint of the juice, allow a 1/2 pound loaf of sugar. Stir until well mixed, then cook just 10 minutes from the time it commences to boil. Overcooking makes it tough and stringy. Pour in sterilized glasses, and when cold cover with paraffin. Canned pineapple. Pare the pineapple and carefully remove the eyes with a sharp-pointed silver knife. Chop or grate or shred it with a fork, rejecting the core. Weigh, and to every pound of fruit allow a 1/2 pound of sugar. Put all together in the preserving kettle. Bring quickly to boiling, skim, and remove at once. Put into jars and fill to overflowing with syrup, and seal. Cherry preserves. Select large red cherries, stem and stone them, and save the juice. Weigh the fruit and an equal amount of sugar. Sprinkle the sugar over the cherries and let stand 6 hours. Then put into a preserving kettle. Add the juice and heat slowly. Simmer until the cherries are clear, and skim carefully several times. Seal in jars and keep in a cool, dark place. Cranberry conserve. To 3 1/2 pounds cranberries, add 3 pounds sugar, 1 pound seeded raisins, and 4 oranges cut in small pieces after peeling. Cook gently about 20 minutes. Take from the fire, add 1 pound walnut meats, and cool. Cherry jelly. The juice of cherries does not make a firm jelly without the addition of gelatin. This means that it will not keep, but must be eaten soon after making. But if a soft jelly will satisfy, it can be made and kept like other jellies without gelatin. To make this jelly, crush ripe cherries and cook until soft, with just enough water to keep from burning. Strain and measure. To each cup of juice allow a cup of sugar. Simmer the juice 10 minutes, heat the sugar, and drop into the boiling juice. In a few minutes a soft jelly will form. Cranberry mold. This is an extremely pretty way of serving cranberries in individual molds. Wash a quart of cranberries and put in a porcelain or granite saucepan. Sprinkle over the top of the berries 2 cupfuls of sugar, and on top of the sugar pour 1 cupful cold water. Set over the fire and cook slowly. When the berries break into a boil, cover just a few moments, not long or the skins will burst. Then uncover and cook until tender. Do not strain, but pour at once into small china molds. This gives a rich, dark-looking mold that is not too acid and preserves the individuality of the fruit. If you wish to use some of the cranberries in lieu of maraschino cherries, take up some of the most perfect berries before they have cooked too tender, using a darning needle or a clean hat pin to impale them. Spread on an oiled plate and set in warming oven or a sunny window until candied. Currant and raspberry jelly. Some of the finest jellies and jams are made from raspberries combined with currants. For jelly, use 2/3 of currant juice to 1/3 raspberry juice, and finish in the usual way. Fig preserves. Take the figs when nearly ripe and cut across the top in the form of a cross. Cover with strong salted water and let stand 3 days, changing the water every day. At the end of this time, cover with fresh water, adding a few grape or fig leaves to color, and cook until quite green. Then put again in cold water, changing twice daily, and leave 3 days longer. Add a pound granulated sugar to each pound figs. Cook a few moments, take from the fire and set aside for 2 days. Add more sugar to make sweet, with sliced and boiled lemon or ginger root to flavor, and cook until tender and thick. Green grape marmalade. If, as often happens, there are many unripened grapes still on the vines and frost threatens, gather them all and try this green grape marmalade. Take 1 gallon stemmed green grapes, wash, drain, and put on to cook in a porcelain kettle with 1 pint of water. Cook until soft, rub through a sieve, measure and add an equal amount of sugar to the pulp. Boil hard 25 minutes, watching closely that it does not burn. Then pour into jars or glasses. When cold, cover with melted paraffin, the same as for jelly. Green tomatoes canned for pies. To 15 pounds round green tomatoes, sliced thin, allow 9 pounds granulated sugar and 1/4 pound ginger, washed, scraped, and cut very thin, and 4 lemons scrubbed and sliced thin, removing all seeds. Put this mixture over the fire with a pint of water and cook about half an hour, taking care the contents of the kettle do not scorch. Turn into sterilized glass jars and seal air tight. A tablespoonful of cinnamon and a half tablespoon each of cloves and allspice may be added to the sauce while cooking, if desired. Pear and blueberry preserves. Pick over and wash 2 quarts of blueberries. Add water to nearly cover and stew them for half an hour. Mash them well. When all are broken, turn into a bowl covered with cheesecloth. Drain well, and when cool, squeeze out all the juice. Put the blueberry juice on to boil. Add 1 pint of sugar to each pint of juice, and remove all scum. Allow 1 quart of sliced pears to 1 pint of juice. Use hard pears not suitable for canning. Cook them in the syrup, turning over often, and when soft and transparent, skim them out into the jars. Boil down the syrup and strain over the fruit. Fill to overflowing and seal. Preserved currants. Weigh 7 pounds of currants before picking over, then stem them and throw out all that are not perfect. Put 7 pounds of sugar with 3 pints of currant juice and boil 3 minutes. Add the currants, 1 pound of seeded raisins, and cook all 20 minutes. Seal in small jars. Preserved strawberries. The following method for preserving strawberries is highly recommended. Weigh the berries and allow an equal amount of sugar. As 2 cups weigh a pound, the sugar can be measured. Put the sugar into the preserving kettle with enough cold water to moisten it, but not enough to make it a liquid. Set the kettle on the back of the range, and when the sugar has entirely dissolved, lay in the fruit and heat. As soon as it boils, skim and cook 5 minutes. Do not stir or mash the berries. Now spread them around on deep platters or enameled pans and cover with panes of window glass. Set in the sun, and the syrup will gradually thicken. Turn into small jars and seal. Rhubarb jam. Add to each pound of rhubarb, cut without peeling, a pound of sugar and 1 lemon. Pare the yellow peel from the lemon, taking care to get none of the bitter white pith. Slice the pulp of the lemon in an earthen bowl, discarding the seeds. Put the rhubarb into the bowl with the sugar and lemon. Cover and stand away in a cool place overnight. In the morning, turn into the preserving kettle, simmer gently 3/4 of an hour or until thick. Take from the fire, cool a little, and pour into jars. Spiced crab apples. Wash the crab apples, cut out the blossoms end with a silver knife. To 4 pounds of fruit take 2 pounds of sugar, 1 pint of vinegar, 1 heaping teaspoon each of broken cinnamon, cassia buds, and allspice. Add 1 scant tablespoon whole cloves. Tie the spices in a thin bag and boil with the vinegar and sugar 5 minutes. Skim them, add the apples, and simmer slowly until tender, which will take about 10 or 15 minutes. Skim out the apples, putting them in a large bowl or jar. Boil the sugar 5 minutes longer and pour over the fruit. Next day, drain off the syrup, heat to the boiling point, and pour again over the apples. Do this for the next 2 days, then bottle and seal while hot. Spiced crabapple jelly. With crab apples still on hand, a nice spiced jelly can be made to serve with meats. Cook the apples without peeling until tender. Strain through a jelly bag. Add vinegar to taste with cloves and cinnamon. Cook 20 minutes. Add an equal quantity of sugar that has been heated in the oven. Boil 5 minutes, skim and turn in glasses. Spiced ripe tomato. Peel ripe tomatoes and weigh. For each 7 pounds, allow 2 cups of vinegar, 7 cups of sugar, 1 ounce of whole allspice, the same of stick cinnamon, and 1/2 ounce of whole cloves. Cook the tomatoes half an hour or until soft, cutting to pieces while cooking. Add the vinegar, sugar, and spices tied in a muslin bag. Cook until thick like marmalade. Serve with cold meats. Tomato figs. Scald 8 pounds of yellow tomatoes and remove the skins. Pack them in layers with an equal weight of sugar. After 24 hours, drain off the juice and simmer 5 minutes. Add the tomatoes and boil until clear. Remove the fruit with a skimmer and harden in the sun while you boil down the syrup until thick. Pack jars 2/3 full of the tomatoes. Pour the syrup over and seal. Add the juice of 4 lemons, 2 ounces of green ginger root tied up in a bag, and the parboiled yellow rind of the lemons to the juice when boiling down. Wild grape butter. If the wild frost grapes are used, take them after the frost has ripened them. Stem and mash, then mix with an equal quantity of stewed and mashed apple. Rub the mixture through a sieve. Add half as much sugar as there is pulp and cook until thick, being careful that it does not burn. It is a good idea to set preserves and fruit butters in the oven with the door ajar to finish cooking, as there is then much less danger of burning or spattering. Yellow tomato preserves. Allow a pound sugar to each pound tomatoes and 1/2 cup of water to each pound fruit. Cover the tomatoes with boiling water, then skim. Make a syrup with the sugar, and when boiling, skim and add the tomatoes. Have ready a sliced lemon that has been cooked in boiling water and a little sliced ginger. Add to the tomatoes. Cook until the tomatoes are clear. Remove, pack in jars, cook the syrup until thick, pour over and seal. Mincemeat. 1 peck sour apples, 3 pounds boiled beef, 2 pounds suet, 1 quart canned cherries, 1 quart grape juice, 1 pint cider, 1 pint apple butter, 1 glass orange marmalade, ½ pound candied orange peel, ½ pound citron, 2 pounds currants, 2 pounds raisins, 2 tablespoonfuls salt. Put all together and boil up well. This may be canned for future use. End of section 18.